Alright.
We're taking all the best old school wisdom and blending it with the top new school methods to bring you the optimal coaching strategies. This is the 80-20 Baseball Podcast with Coach Bo.
Welcome 80-20 Baseball coaches, 80-20 Baseball community. Whether you are new to the podcast or whether you've been here for all 231 episodes, welcome. This is our weekly meetup where we fine-tune our coaching game. And for some of you, you're newer to coaching and you're just trying to hit the accelerator. You're trying to speed up the learning curve. Either way, it is great to have you here. Feel free to email me your questions, your thoughts, things that have been going well for you, things that you're discovering on your coaching journey, coachbo@8020baseball.com, or you can head over to the website 8020baseball.com and use the contact page there. While you're there, you can get the free drill design guide. It's a 21-page PDF. It's about a 20-minute read, and it highlights the parts needed to create productive, effective, and efficient drills. Coming up in this episode, we will talk about how to tier up the expectations we have for our players as they move up age levels. Now, these expectations are regarding rules, consequences, and that topic there. I'll break it down and share my thoughts. After we discuss that, we'll discuss how to grade at-bats, how to give an at-bat a grade regardless of the result. And speaking of grading at-bats, we're going to highlight a player today and how we can use this player as an example for our players to help them have more confidence, to ease their tension in the box, and to feel a little bit better about their hitting game when they're struggling. And we'll dive into a few other things towards the end. So tiering up expectations, or tiering or phasing in the amount of rules, the expectations, consequences as our players move up age levels. A lot of you are coaching younger players. When I say younger, 5, 6, 7, 8. Some of you are in that 9 to 10 range. Some of you are coaching 11 and 12-year-olds. Some of you are coaching those middle school 13 and 14-year-olds. I know we have high school and college coaches that listen to this, and while much of this applies at every level, we're going to focus on that 14 and under age group right now. So my recommendation here, my suggestion here is to increase the amount of rules as players get older. On the surface, this comes across as making a lot of sense. Players get older, we expect more from them. I just want to make sure that we discuss it and there's clarity. I do see coaches out there whose expectations and rules aren't the best fit for their age level. And the rules and their expectations and their standards about behavior, what's expected out of players in different situations, during practice, during the games, pregame, after practice. It's not uncommon to see good rules, good expectations, appropriate consequences, but at the wrong level, or that they're not quite a good fit for that age group. So the coach is coming from a great place. They're on the right track, but I think it's important that our expectations fit the age group. There are different ways to look at this, of course, but I'm grouping youth baseball players from 5 to 8, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old group, the 9 to 10 group, the 11 to 12 group, and the 13 to 14 group. I don't think we need to get too granular here. And while parents of a 5-year-old will likely have different expectations of that kid when they're 5 than when they're 8, in that short window of practice and games and the baseball season, I'm going to put the 5 through 8 together, the 9 and 10, the 11s and 12s, and the 13s and 14s. I think if we group it together with those age groups, 5 through 8-year-olds, 9 and 10, 11 and 12s, 13s and 14s, I think it keeps it a little easier for our minds to organize and categorize. When you're coaching teams with players that are 8 years old and younger, we want to have not just fewer rules, we also want to slow down the speed of enforcement. Now, there's a fine line between not following through here. So always keep that in mind when you've set forth consequences, whether those consequences are in writing or just verbal agreements that you have with the team that you set forth before the season or as the season starts revving up. So keep this in mind. As the players' ages increase, the amount of rules will increase. I'm not a big fan of having a lot of rules, but let's say you have 5 or 6 key rules for a 13 and 14-year-old team, then the 5 through 8-year-old teams would have 1 or 2 key rules when it comes to behavior, hustle, etc. So as the players' ages increase, I recommend adding 1 more rule for every one of these age groups. So you may have 2 key rules to start, and then when they get to 9 and 10, you add a 3rd key rule. When they get to 11 and 12 in that age bracket, you have a 4th rule or key expectation. And when they're 13 and 14, you'll be around 5. Some of these team rules will revolve around the lack of hustle, things like throwing equipment when angry, disrespecting teammates or the coaches, showing up late, not showing up at all, missing practice, failure to bring the required equipment, with a big emphasis on those first three. Now, in this podcast, we're not diving into the specific rules, but more so the phasing in, the on-ramping of rules and expectations through the years, through the levels that you coach. And also, it should bring to mind the awareness that we as coaches should look and can definitely consider the rules we're using for our age group and not necessarily copy what other coaches are doing. Also, you can, with the lower levels, 5 through 8, a tip would be to implement a new expectation mid-year. But be clear about this. Say, hey, these are the expectations to start the year, and we'll add a few more mid-year as we grow and get better, as we get really good with these expectations and rules that we have right now. It's always important to explain the benefits to them of having rules. I think it's so important to sell the benefit without overselling it, to sell the benefit to the players, to the team of having rules, the benefits of having rules and how it benefits them specifically. So let's back up here. As the players get older, we increase the number of rules / expectations that we'll have. We'll increase the speed of enforcement. There will be fewer warnings. There may not be a warning for a 13 or 14-year-old team. The tiered consequence system might speed up. We are going to increase the consequences as players get older. Typically, that's the length of the consequence, the duration, whether that's bear crawls or having to sit out a game. Now, two of the key benefits of doing this and having this approach is that it on-ramps them to life. And as we know, progressions are good. And we want to on-ramp them to life. We should definitely avoid expecting adult behavior and adult-like discipline from a 9-year-old. So on-ramping them allows them to have success and stack those better habits. Some of you are familiar with habit stacking, and I'm sure some of you use it in your life, and what a game changer the concept of habit stacking is, even for adults. One thing I've used as I've gotten older is picking 2 habits each year that I want to improve, and then really trying to get good at those 2 habits, trying to build and establish and cement those habits. And then the next year, 2 more and 2 more. And that's helped me a lot. Go from somebody in my 20s who didn't eat well, didn't sleep well, didn't take care of myself, had a yo-yo exercise routine, up and down, mostly down. And it's also helped me solidify my coaching game by picking 1 or 2 things that I want to get better at, 1 or 2 habits each year, each season that I want to focus on, so I can cement those and then build on top of a better, stronger foundation rather than a house of cards. Now, the second benefit of tiering up or phasing in the expectations and rules is it prevents our players from being overwhelmed by too much too early. And it allows our players to focus on learning the game when they're coming from a place of not knowing much about the game. It allows them to have some fun and learn the game, which will greatly help to hook their interest on the game by having fun and improving their skills quickly and their knowledge of the game rather than overly focused on toeing the line. And then when you get to coaching those 13s and 14-year-olds, half of your messages early on in the season might revolve around stepping up and meeting those expectations you've set forth. But while you're starting off a season with 6-year-olds, quickly getting them some knowledge of the game, some skill competency, and some smiles and laughs will establish that enjoyment of the game and appreciation and keep them coming back. As coaches, we have the opportunity to shape and help kids into becoming much better adults. And maybe now more than ever, with the design and the flow of society, sports is playing a critical part in the building of key habits, characteristics that will give our kids a much better chance of being successful as adults. We'll give them a much better chance of excelling and being great adults. And so if we run them out of the game or we scare them off early, we can't make that impact. We can't have that impact. If a player's not out there on the field with you there to coach them, then your impact is moot. So we want the players to keep coming back, but we also want to phase in and increase and tier up the expectations, because the real world, i.e. being an adult, takes accountability, responsibility, discipline if there's going to be any chance at thriving. Here's one last tip as we transition to the next segment. I think it's important to forewarn players about expectations at the next level next year. While you may not coach the players on your team next year, you may coach some of them, maybe all of them, but more often than not, next year's team will have fewer players returning and more new players. That's typically how it plays out. Of course, not always. Either way, I think it's important to forewarn players about the expectations at the next level and for next year. And that's similar to having those 5 and 6-year-old teams, you might infuse 1 or 2 key expectations or rules at the beginning, and then halfway through the season, you infuse a second or third expectations, you add one on, you tie one on, you make sure you tell them that's coming. Part of the reason we want to do this is so it doesn't look like we're shooting from the hip. When the perception from players is the coach has a plan and it's thought out, it's more trustworthy, and we have to have players' trust if we want to have a great impact on them. And that goes along with getting their buy-in. So to review this, we want to tier up the expectations. We don't want to give them too much too early, and we want to have the right amount of rules. It needs to be a good fit, the type of rules, the amount of rules, the speed of the enforcement, the severity of the consequences needs to fit for each group. I think grouping 5 to 8, 9 to 10, 11 to 12, 13 to 14 will work for the most part. I know every kid's a little different, and you're going to get some outliers on each side of that. But that should be a good starting point. So phase in more rules as the kids get older, phase in the enforcement, phase in the consequences, the severity of the consequences. This benefits them by on-ramping them to life. Progression is good. If you're coaching some of those younger kids now and you plan to coach, and hopefully you want to keep coaching, hopefully you do keep coaching, because I know the coaches that listen to this podcast are in it for the right reasons. Because if you're into the content of this podcast, inherently you're going to be in it for the right reasons. And so what I would lay out is when you get some free time after the season, lay out how you expect or plan to layer on the rules and expectations as you move up. If anything, you prioritizing it, because a coach who knows everything about the game and can teach every hitter how to be great and every pitcher how to be great, or every infielder, outfielder how to be great, or every base runner how to steal every base. If practice is a circus, none of that matters. If practice is a circus, it doesn't matter how much the coach knows about skill development. And along with that, planning ahead, I would definitely towards the end of the year, infuse the message, forewarning players that the expectations at the next level next year are going to be more, are going to be greater. There will be higher expectations next year and at the next level. And that's how life works. And that's good. All right, grading at-bats for youth baseball players, definitely for those players 12 and under. So we're grading an at-bat, starting with less than 2 strikes. Did the hitter swing at a pitch in their hitting zone? Were they on time? And did they give it a strong swing? Was it a nice full swing? Not overswing, but a nice full swing. Not 110%, but not 85% or 70%. Did they give it a good swing? This is with less than 2 strikes. If they did, then they get a point on that. If they don't do those, if they mess up there, then it's a 0. Now, with 2 strikes, did the hitter swing at a pitch in the strike zone as determined by the umpire that day? As determined by the umpire. Did they swing at the pitch that was in the strike zone, or did they take the pitch that wasn't in that strike zone? And did they make contact? So if they swung at a pitch in the strike zone and made contact, that's a point. If they take a pitch that's a strike, that's not a point, that's a 0. And if they swing at a pitch that's not around the strike zone, that bounces, that's up by their eyes, that's not a point, that's a 0. So let's run through an example here of a 5-pitch at-bat. First pitch, down low, well below the knees. Maybe it skims the dirt as the catcher catches it. Hitter doesn't swing. That's 1 point. Next pitch, pitcher throws a pitch 2 inches off the outside part of the plate at the knees. Umpire calls it a strike. That's a point for the hitter. They get a point because they didn't swing at a pitcher's pitch. Third pitch, 1-1 count. Pitcher throws one up by their neck. Hitter swings. This pitch is clearly out of the strike zone. Hitter still swings. That's a 0. 0 for 1 on that pitch. Now, you could get more granular here and score out each part. Like, did they swing at a good pitch? Were they on time? Did they swing full speed? Did they give it a good strong swing? You could break it out if you want. For simplicity's sake, this is more than effective at the lower levels. All right, now you got pitch 4. It's a 1-2 count. The pitcher now throws the 4th pitch in the same spot as that second pitch, 2 inches off the plate at the knees. In all likelihood, that's going to be a strike at pretty much every level below professional baseball, and definitely high school and down. Very rarely is a pitch a couple inches off the plate not called a strike in youth baseball. Almost always, those umpires are given sometimes 6, 12 inches off the outside corner. We've all seen this. So it's 2 inches off the plate at the knees. There's 2 strikes. Hitter swings, fouls it off. This is a point. They get a point for that. Fouling off a pitch that's in or near the strike zone is a point. Now pitch 5, 2-2 pitch. Pitcher throws a good breaking ball on the outside corner. Hitter swings, has to slow up the swing a little bit, but is on time, hits a decently firm ball to the center fielder, but it gets caught. That's a point. They made contact. They covered the strike zone. That's a point. The result was an out, but the approach was good. So in that at-bat, the hitter was 3 for 5. They got a point on the first 2 pitches. Pitches 3, they did not get a point. Pitch 4 and 5, they earned a point each. So they were 3 out of 5. And that's a simple way of grading the hitting approach. This can have some variation. With less than 2 strikes, you could get a little more granular with this. Maybe when they're 11 and 12, did they swing at a pitch in their hitting zone? That's a point. Or did they take the pitch that wasn't in their hitting zone? That's a point. And then were they on time? If they were, that's a point. Or if they weren't, that's a 0. And did they give it a good strong swing or not? And that right there could be a 0 or a 1. Or you could go -1. There shouldn't be a whole lot of variation here because the game of baseball shouldn't be that complex and hitting plan, hitting approach shouldn't be that complex. Not with that tiny amount of time to determine whether to swing, to be on time, to make contact. But it's a great starting point to assess the hitting plan, the hitting approach for your players. It takes the result out of it a little bit more and grades the process. Also, it's something that's easier to coach because even good high school, college, and professional hitting coaches, they don't know how to fix every swing. And these are higher level coaches, much less youth coaches. But seeing where the pitch is, that's easy to identify for any coach. Was it a good strong swing or not? A beginning coach can assess that. Were they on time? If you need to videotape this and score it afterwards, that's not bad. Sometimes scoring it with a center field camera after, you could score your whole team out. If you have time, or you could at least score out your kid. With 2 strikes, did they cover the strike zone and did they make contact? You could add another category and say, if the pitcher made a mistake, did they drive it? Did they hit it hard if it was a mistake? I think if you can get those parts graded out, if the players can improve their grade on those parts, the percentage. So that's simply a percentage. Like the example I gave you was 3 out of 5. So that's a 60%. What'd be great is you could use a scoring system like the grades in school, A, B, C, D. And I wouldn't use minuses and plus. I'd just say 90% or better, A, 80% or better, B. By taking care of the hitting approach, by grading out and improving the hitting approach, hitting plan, we know this score is correlated to having more success. And then as players get a little bit older, you could add a little more nuance, a little more granularity here and go from there. Now, speaking of grading at bats, Jackson Holliday, he just got moved up to the major leagues. On 8020baseball.com, I did a video analysis. By the way, there's 3 videos over there right now that have been recently added to the website, 8020baseball.com, where I break down 4 different at-bats. Jackson Holliday happens to be one of them. Corey Seager, Evan Carter, and Mike Trout are the other 3. And we dive into what I'm talking about here a little bit more and you can see it visually. So Jackson Holliday has 1 hit and 30 at-bats as of this recording. 1 for 30. That's a batting average of .033. His OPS plus is -60. That's terrible. Or as Chuck would say, that's terrible. So he's off to a bad start. But if you go watch that video, it's interesting because I got that at bat from like a month and a half ago. And what he's doing now is what we saw in that at bat. And why am I bringing up Jackson Holliday? He's a major leaguer. Yeah, he's young. So he's a little more relatable to the kids that we're coaching. But I think this would be a good example if you have a player struggling right now on your team, and you likely do. If your season's already rocking and rolling, you likely have a player or 2 that are struggling. It's baseball. You might have half your hitters struggling. This would be a good message to infuse into your pregame or post-practice or pre-practice message. If they're struggling, say, hey, even the best struggle. Say Jackson Holliday got a $9 million check because he was the best high school baseball player in the country. He got a $9 million check. Now I'm rounding up a little. It was like mid-8s. He got about a $9 million check for being the best high school baseball player in the country. And he's 1 for 30. He's 1 for 30. 1 hit. Not only that, he is swinging and missing at 50% of the pitches he sees. Half of the pitches he swings at, he misses. He got a $9 million check and was considered by most to be the best high school baseball player in the country for his year, and he's whiffing half of the time he swings. So players, even the best struggle. Even the best struggle. All right? Don't get down on yourself. Jackson Holliday is going to be fine. You're going to be fine. It's baseball. And you're not alone. And the struggle is built into being a hitter. And the good news is your next at-bat is a new at-bat. Your next at-bat is a fresh start with a brand new count. Now, real quick, Jackson Holliday is struggling right now for a couple reasons. One of them that I see is that he's over-swinging. He is swinging 110%. That's never a good recipe. Hitters should never be swinging more than 100% good, strong swing with less than 2 strikes. And with 2 strikes, he's still swinging at about 95, 100% on pitches that he should probably be slowing down and adjusting his swing path and bat speed for, because what he's doing is he's whiffing with 2 strikes rather than slowing down a little bit and hoping he can drive something over the shortstop's head, put it in play, see what happens, see how it shakes out. The other thing he's doing is he's trying to pull everything. In fact, right now, he is pulling 64% of the balls that he's putting in play. 64%. In perspective, he's dominated the minor leagues, and in the minor leagues, he's been right around 40% pull. He's pulling the ball 25% more now than he was at the minor leagues. Now, pulling the ball and going the other way, neither one in and of itself is good or bad. What's bad is when the pitch is outside and you're trying to pull it. That's not good. And when the pitch is inside, trying to go the other way, thinking you're the next Derek Jeter, who's a unicorn, not a good idea. You should probably try to pull that pitch if it's inside more often than not. Hit the pitch where it's pitched. If it's away, more often than not, the best move is to go away. If it's down the middle, more often than not, hitting the ball back up the middle. Maybe slightly pull or slightly the other way. There's going to be a little variation there. If the pitch is inside, more often than not, the best move is to try to drive that ball, try to hit a line drive to the pull side. So the three things Jackson Holliday's doing, if you're watching this, and we can learn from this with our players, going back to grading at bats. 1, he's over swinging with less than 2 strikes. Number 2, he's over swinging with 2 strikes. And number 3, he's trying to pull pitches that are away, change-ups away. And that's a recipe that's going to lead to a lot of struggle. So in review, grading at bats. Let's grade the hitting approach, the hitting plan, rather than the result. And let the statistics take care of the result. The stats, those are pretty easily accounted for, visible. Most teams with technology now, getting stats to players or getting stats in coaches' hands is easy. But those are lagging metrics. Those are the results. Let's grade the process. The results are going to be easy to quantify. There's apps and things that we all know and use that do that. But let's grade the process, the plan. Did they swing at a hitter's pitch? Were they on time? Did they get a good swing on it? With 2 strikes, did they cover the strike zone? And did they make contact? And then go from there. And go check out those videos on 8020baseball.com that illustrate this in a lot more depth. All right, I'm going to finish up with this suggestion. The youth sports environment, it can be tense, right? And even if we as coaches don't go out there with tension and we go out there calm, just the environment, people around us can elevate our stress levels a little, our tension. We're trying to do well. We're trying to be a good coach. I highly recommend if you're finding it a little bit stressful or a little tense when you get out there, go for a 20-minute jog before you hop in the car to go to the field. Go do a 20-minute jog. It'll do wonders for our patience, our calmness. Coaching youth sports, it can be tense. Just even when we know we should be calm and collected, it can be tense. So why not enter that environment with less tension? Not only that, by going for a 20-minute jog before the game, before we hop in the car to drive to the game, that allows us to have some extra pizza or ice cream after the game with the players or with your kid and not feel so guilty about it, right? So at the minimum, more dessert. All right, next week, we have an interview planned to come your way. It's scheduled to be recorded this week. Really excited. It's going to be a great interview with a great guest who really gets coaching and has just a ton of wisdom. So I'm excited. If everything goes according to plan, that should be ready to rock next week. And we'll dive right into the interview next week. If you wouldn't mind, help support the podcast, leave a review, a rating, share this with a friend. That would be much appreciated. And until next week, let's keep taking care of our health so we can take care of our families, our close friends, and be the coach we want to be. And let's take this information out there to the training environment, to the practice environment, to the games, and put it into play. All right, everyone, take care. And until next week, adios.
This has been the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass. Take it to the field.